Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome to Adventures in History. Today's topic is Zuck Family Letters, 1955 to 1957. This was originally published as a Zuck Family Memories Collection, or ZFMC number 59, published on April 4th, 2002. And these are primarily letters of Gertrude Zuck Ray to my parents, John and Ruth Ray. So it's from the and Gertrude was my father's mother. So let's get started. Excuse me. 1407 Marlborough Street, Sandusky, Ohio, July 27, 1955. Dear John and Ruth, the proofs of Pamela were such a wonderful surprise. We've been wanting a photograph of her, and these are really good. Lots of personality, and such cute little smiles. We like them in the following order: 1, 4, 5, 8. Still think she looks a little like Cynthia. When I put the proofs beside Mark's picture here on the radio, you can certainly tell they are brother and sister. Congratulations on your driving license, Ruth. You will be so much freer to come and go now. I never did learn to parallel park well. In fact, haven't driven for such a long time, I've probably forgotten everything I did know. There was an Excuse me. There was an account of the JC convention in our paper here, but I didn't see John's name in it. Our neighbor across the street, Jay Wagner, had big doings during it, people coming and going at his home. Dave says he wants Lisa's feet to show when she is baptized. Mrs. Shively gave her little white satin slippers. I'll bring the christening dress when we come Sunday. We should get to your house around 3:30 or 4 o'clock Cleveland time, depending on the traffic. We ran into a lot returning from Marion last Sunday, and Route 6 will probably have more. Let's hope it cools off by then. It will be so nice to have a picnic once again and to see your family all at the same time. The last time was the day you started for Glen Lake. We haven't heard any more from Marge. Harold expected her to be up and able to attend a party at the country club this coming Saturday night. He is pretty optimistic. She looked like she had been through an ordeal when we were in for a few minutes last Sunday. The Frelicks want to go to Lakeside over Labor Day too, and so do Carol and Dave, so we should have a good party. I think Dick and Joan may go too. Barbara is still on her trip, but will be home in plenty of time. By the way, she had some of the colored slides of the Canadian Rockies sent to Mary, and we saw them through the hand viewer, and they are fine. You would enjoy them. So many of Lake Louise. Helen and Steve expect to be in Marion a few days next week before going to Glen Lake. Lenore and Mary are looking in on Dad and Mother this week. Aunt Edith offered to sleep there nights so the folks aren't alone. Dad is up and dressed during the day, has a wonderful appetite, and can swallow. He is quite rational, and we had some fine visits last week. He realized he had been confused, told me he was so, even in his dreams at night. The phenobarbital he was taking must have left him about half doped most of the time. Thanks again for sending the proofs and for your good letter, Ruth. We will be seeing you Sunday around 4. Love, Mother. Dear Mark and Pamela, what a fine party we are going to have Sunday. We hope Lisa can come too. She's still pretty small, about 11.5 pounds, and can't quite hold up her head, but she has bright dark eyes that follow you around. Do you have any goldfish yet? Love, Grandma and Grandpa. And another letter from Gertrude Ray to my parents. 1407 Marlborough Street, Sandusky, Ohio, Monday, August 1st, 1955. Dear John, Ruth, Mark, and Pamela, suppose Mark and Pamela are sleeping late this morning after the big day yesterday. Pamela, you are a real water baby, up and over the side of the wading pool just like riding breakers. Those slides should be a riot. Yesterday was such a good day. We did enjoy it all. We have been wanting to see the apartment ever since Joan and Dick's wedding. Then we have been missing Mark and Pamela, so we got in both wishes in one day. We think your house and yard are in such good shape, the best of any near you. We enjoyed Ruth's elegant picnic, too. That cake tasted wonderful. I've really not baked a cake for so long. Sort of forgot how good it can be. And your picnic table is big enough to have a gang without crowding. Carol found Lisa cool and rested, so it is good she left her at home. The trip back last night took a long time. We found a traffic jam literally miles long west of Vermilion. Luckily, we are going in the opposite direction. Oh yes, I'd say about a cup of bone meal around the smallest evergreens and gauge the bigger ones accordingly. It's really wonderful stuff. Slow acting, but winter snows help it do its work after you put it on in the fall. You have such a variety of trees. They should be lovely in a few years. Crabgrass has really gone to town here. I didn't notice much in your yard, or did you put some repellent on it? We will be looking forward to Lakeside, and it should be cooler by that time. Thanks again for such a fine picnic. Love, Mother. And another letter from Gertrude Ray. 1407 Marlborough Street, Sandusky, Ohio. Tuesday, August 15th, 1955. Dear folks, a card from Mary this morning said Dad was pretty good. We want to get down there sometime this coming weekend. Hope to take Carol, Dave, and Lisa along if it isn't too hot. Hope Mark is fine again. A happy day Friday. Love, Mother. And another letter from Gertrude Zuck, December 30th, 1407 Marlborough Street, Sandusky, Ohio. December 30th, 1955. Dear folks, the house has been so quiet this week after the full house of Christmas. The pictures of Mark, Pamela, and Lisa are on the piano, right above the keyboard. A fine place to display them. I looked for frames yesterday, but no luck. I gave Mr. and Mrs. Dunn 2 slices of your fruit cake, Ruth. Mrs. Dunn was so pleased. We will surely have to get the youngsters over there for a little visit the next time you come. Doran and I went to the Grace Episcopal Choir concert for Christmas music Wednesday night. Very beautiful, and I think the whole family might get to one service together next Christmas. It just seems something is lacking without it. Did those Christmas cookies ever come in good? Your family surely helped make the weekend. I know Helen and Steve enjoyed seeing you too. We plan to go to Marion Sunday afternoon. Mary wrote that nobody phoned Christmas Day, and Mother couldn't be budged from the house because she expected some calls. Then Ted called Monday, and they had a big letter from Tommy the same day. We had just been down there, and I had called shortly before Christmas, but it was too bad anyhow. Lenore and Dale were there for Christmas dinner. We hope you will have lots of happiness and prosperity in the new year, and you did help a lot to make Christmas happy. Love, Mother. Dear Mark and Pamela, thank you for the nice Christmas pictures and the clothes sprinkler. I know little fingers worked carefully and long to make it such a pretty one, and it's almost too nice to use. Maybe Grandma will just keep it to look at. A big hug and kiss for each of you this new year. Love, Grandma. And another letter from Gertrude Zuck, 1407 Marlborough Street, Sandusky, Ohio. Thursday, January 5th, 1956. Dear folks, the check for the sweater came yesterday. There was no hurry about it, but thanks so much. I wore the sweater to Marion Sunday and Monday night over at Carol and Dave's. Lisa's eyes just followed me around. The sweater must have had something to do with it. Helen and Lenore both had white jeweled sweaters on too, so we had quite a trio. We found Mother and Dad pretty good, and Steve apparently recovered from his stomach ache. Dale was flat on his back with a respiratory ailment. Ted thought he might have pneumonia, but Lenore doubted it. At any rate, she was really laying down the law about keeping him in bed. They missed going to Ted's as they had planned over New Year's. They planned to leave for Mexico January 31st, to be gone about 3.5 weeks. 4 couples are going together. Merle bought himself and Dale toupees in New York, $150 each. Merle's looks fine, but one of Dale and Lenora's friends practically rolled on the floor laughing at Dale's, so he isn't wearing his. Lenora said he might get one before that trip, more on the butch type, and try and break it in while they are gone. Suppose he'll have to keep as youthful looking as Merle. We talked to Barbara, too. She said they might take off any weekend and be married. May live with Frank and Mary for a while. We had a letter from California, and Aunt Chell is having an artificial eye put in soon. Seemed in good spirits and very grateful for your and our Christmas cards to them. Carol evidently has the bug Dave has been having. So far, Lisa has escaped. She has her first tooth and is doing fine on her Christmas toilet chair. Suppose you saw this in the paper, Ruth. Hope you are all fine. Love, Mother. And another letter from Gertrude Zuck, 1407 Marlborough Street, Sandusky, Ohio, January 31st, 1956. Dear folks, from the plain dealer this morning, you had it too, and more of it than here in Sandusky. Our drive was really a workout to clear. Boy, do we need the snow. The evergreens have had a tough time this dry, cold winter. We did enjoy both letters, Ruth. Mark must have been disgruntled when he got home. He was such a good boy when he was here. Suppose youngsters have to have their ups and downs just like adults. Did we mention that Carol and Dave were thinking of buying a house? Well, the man has come down $1,000 on the price, and it looks now as though they may buy it. Carol said it will probably be vacant in May, a good time to move. There's a big backyard, so there will be plenty of room for Lisa to play. She has had no place to even take an airing except that back porch. We got the mattress from Taylor's yesterday, one of those specials Taylor's were running, a White Dove Extra Firm. It felt pretty good last night, so I'm glad that's taken care of. Complete price $40.95. Thanks a lot for your inquiries about the body bracer. It probably would have given some more support, but I believe this one will serve our purpose. Helen and Steve and his girl were hoping to drive to Ann Arbor this past weekend. It's between semesters, and Connie, Steve's girl, has been visiting in Marion. Carol and I both got along pretty well on the polio drive. It was cold but not too slippery, and people generally were hospitable and responsive. Lenore and Dale should be on their way to Mexico, and Helen and Fred are soon to be on their ocean cruise. This is the time of year to really appreciate warm, balmy breezes. Love to you all, Mother. Dear Mark and Pamela, was I ever surprised to open your envelope and see that pretty red cardinal? I see them outside every once in a while, too. They like the berries on the Japanese yew bushes in front of the house. This is good weather to make snowmen and animals. I wish you could have been here yesterday to help shovel the snow off the driveway. What a big pile of snow was out there. Debbie's birthday party must have been fun. You will have to tell us about it when we see you. Do you feed the birds these snowy days? Love, Grandma Ray. And another letter from Gertrude Ray. 1407 Marlborough Street, Sandusky, Ohio, Monday, March 12th, 1956. Dear folks, as always, we thoroughly enjoyed the note, and what a lot of news of babies. I suppose Ann and Wayne Duff were hoping for a girl this time. I know you are all delighted about Bud and Doris, and it will be such a pleasure for your mother and father to have a grandchild close enough to enjoy and watch grow up. Carol, Dave, and Lisa were here yesterday, the first time for weeks, what with the flu, etc. Lisa chatters a mile a minute, and Dave swears she calls him Daddy. She's been saying Mum Mum for a long time. She can't be persuaded to creep, but stands pretty well when you hold her hands. She wasn't at all afraid of me yesterday, and not too strange with Doran, so perhaps she is getting over that stage. We are looking forward to having Mark and Pamela. Love, Mother. Dear Mark and Pamela, that was a very fine note the postman brought from you. How we are waiting to have you come Saturday and expect to have a real visit. I found a funny coloring book, one with a rabbit on the cover who has carrots and cauliflower on his head, and peas and beans for a necklace. You can color the inside when you come. Then I found a pretty pink dress and socks for Pamela. So goodbye till Saturday. Love, Grandma Ray. And another letter from Gertrude Zuck Ray. 1407 Marlborough Street, Sandusky, Ohio. Friday morning, April 20th, 1956. Dear Mark and Pamela, Grandma had a fine bus ride home yesterday morning, watching the blossoms coming out on the trees along the road. They are just beginning to come out, and the cows and horses in the fields looked like they were having a good time too, eating the first spring grass. Baby Lisa is better too, only a little fever, and her vaccination is getting smaller. Grandpa called Uncle Dick last night, and they are moving next Thursday to a half-flight up apartment at Milverton Road, just at the edge of Shaker Heights in Cleveland, and are so happy about it. Our first little tulip is putting up his little pink nose out at the bottom of the bird bath. We are going down to Marion for a little while tonight to see Grandpa Zuck. I suppose the towhees and squirrels are playing in the backyard this morning. Grandma is feeling fine, and we are going to have a good visit when you come to Sandusky. Love, Grandma. And another letter from Gertrude Zuck Ray. 1407 Marlborough Street, Sandusky, Ohio. Wednesday, April 25th, 1956. Dear folks, we were surely glad to hear you are all feeling better. Now some warm spring weather to get you outdoors. How you will welcome that. We had a fine evening in Delaware, Ohio last night. Steve gave a good account of himself, didn't seem at all nervous. The second group on the program was played by Connie and Steve. She is Steve's current heart interest. Then this Mary Hall, who accompanied, was exceptionally good. She's a sophomore and an organ major. If she can play piano with such artistry when she isn't majoring in it, I would like to hear her organ work. The Brahms Sonata was the most impressive number. Wish you could have heard it. Fred and Vonnie were both there. Vonnie left David in Ann Arbor with her grandmother and brought Jeffrey to Marion with them. She left him at Helen's with a sitter. Mary, Bill, Barbara, Lenore, and a number of Helen's friends from Marion were there too, so it was a big evening for the Lacys. Fred gave a talk for one of Helen's clubs yesterday afternoon. I think from what the folks said that things are going better in Marion too. Dad is up part of the time now, and they are keeping his bed downstairs in the dining room. Marge Freilich recovered from her bug in a hurry. One of the new drugs did the trick. Don't know just which one she took. We have an all-day church meeting in Wakeman tomorrow. I think it's over near Oberlin. I'm looking forward to it, for last year was a fine program. Usually some distinguished churchwoman is the main speaker. Then we sort of get a statewide view of Congregationalism, too. We heard a radio broadcast of the arrival of the Norwegian boat sponsored by the Cleveland Jaycees, and Mayor Celebrezzi's talk last night. Very interesting, and glad we happened to tune in on the way to Delaware. Love, Mother. P.S. Lisa still has a fever at night. Otherwise, she's pretty good. Dear Pamela, hello there, Pamela. We took a big ride last night to Delaware. I found a pretty little bottle for you to play with when you come next time. Love, Grandma. And another letter from Gertrude Zuck Ray. 1407 Marlborough Street, Sandusky, Ohio. Monday, May 21st, 1956. Dear folks, we got home about 10 last night. Carol, Dave, and Lisa slept most of the way, so Lisa didn't lose too much for usual night's sleep. She did have a wonderful time getting acquainted yesterday. For that matter, we all had a fine day, excluding the bump. The food tasted elegant, Ruth. I know you lost a lot of rest getting ready for us, but we did enjoy it all. Doran had a body man look at his car, and he said it would cost $100 to fix it. He hasn't made a definite date to have it fixed yet, wants to get another estimate on it. Carol said her shoulder is pretty sore. I wonder how John's neck is and whether Ruth felt any after effects. My neck is sore too. Nothing too painful, though. Thanks again for the fine picnic. Love, Mother. And here's a letter from Frank and Lena Zuck, my father's mother's parents. 373 Windsor Street, Marion, Ohio, June 13th, 1956. Dear John, we can't tell you how happy we are that you got the presidency of the Cleveland Junior Chamber of Commerce and we'll get to go to New Zealand. We're so proud of you, John, and wish you all the luck in the world. We both are getting along pretty well and hope you and your family will get to Marion soon. With lots of love, Grandpa and Grandma Zuck. And here's another letter from Gertrude Zuck Ray. 1407 Marlborough Street, Sandusky, Ohio, July 5th, 1956. Dear folks, yesterday was a quiet 4th of July here. The weather more like November and not much celebration. Carol and Dave were here and we enjoyed Lisa's attempts at walking. She really does walk alone now, perhaps 8 or 10 steps. Doran took 2 slides, hope they are good. Now we won't have to set up the screen and projector to get our first view of slides. I know we are going to get a lot of enjoyment out of the small projector, and we do appreciate it. The lovely vanity set is gracing the top of the front room double dresser. It's an ornament for any bedroom. Carol thinks it's beautiful too. Doran used some of the golf balls yesterday, and he says they are fine. Dave and Carol are planning to move next week if possible. The present tenant is leaving this coming Saturday, and they plan to go over evenings and clean the house before they move. They will have 4 or 5 hours each evening after Dave comes from work and should be able to clean a lot in a few days with both of them at it. The repairing and remodeling will come later. The other afternoon, 2 young magazine salesmen were here, and in the course of the conversation I found out one of them was a Canadian who had been born not far from Regina, Saskatchewan. He said I was the first person he had met who had had any connection with anyone from near home, and was so glad to talk to me, and wondered how close Ruth was to Sandusky. Would have loved to have visited with you. Hope you both are getting rested up after your strenuous time at Kansas City. Give Mark and Pamela a kiss for us, and thanks for their nice note and your good letter. Love, Mother. And another letter from Gertrude Zuck Ray. 1407 Marlborough Street, Sandusky, Ohio, Sunday, August 26, 1956. Dear John, Ruth, Mark, and Pamela, it was so good to get Ruth's letter and the snapshots while we were at Helen's, and of course to show off the grandchildren. I read part of the letter to Helen too, and since she is to be in Oberlin this winter, she looks forward to having relatives close by. She has such a multitude of things to do these coming weeks. Oberlin may prove to be restful after she is once there and settled. Fred and Vonnie are moving to Delaware, Ohio, and Helen will probably be looking after David and Jeffrey. Steve is to be helped start off his year at the University of Indiana. Glen Lake is to be shut up. Helen's affairs in Marion have to be put in order, each one of these taking quite a bit of doing. Then to get to Oberlin and her new work. We did enjoy Mackinac and our trip to the Sioux and Taquaman Falls and have some lovely slides which we want you to see. We had dinner at the Grand Hotel at Mackinac, went through the Canadian locks at the Sioux. Doran played golf many times at Crystal Downs. Joan and Dick had a wonderful time with a rented boat and outboard motor on Glen Lake. We took the river trip down the Platte River, and oh yes, I found the small cuckoo clock at a shop in Mackinac Island. It cuckoos every half hour, and I think Mark and Pamela will love it. It just fits in the breakfast nook. Doran bought himself an elegant wool shirt at one of the gift shops at Glen Lake, so we both came home with things we really had been hunting. Congratulations, John, too, on the good picture and the project of car locking. Surely a practice that everyone who drives should develop. Ruth's letters are always like a good visit, and the one this past week came at just the time we were wondering how things were going at your house. It was lucky you found out about the clock before you mailed the letter. 2 cuckoo clocks would have been a little too much. We would love to have Mark and Pamela the 22nd and the 23rd. I hope this kiddie land is still having some business by that time, so we can take them over. Mark told me when they were here that he wanted to go on the Ferris wheel. Dave and Carol take Lisa over, and she has a wonderful time on the merry-go-round. It must have been hard to miss your family's reunion over Labor Day, of course. We are glad you are to be in Lakeside with us, and hope your grandfather can plan his trip to Bay Village the 5th. We will have to make some plans while in Lakeside. Perhaps we could have a get-together in Sandusky. Carol had a thorough checkup since we are at home, and apparently her extreme thinness is nothing organically wrong. TB test, diabetes, etc. were okay. The doctor wants her to come in again, so he will probably prescribe something to get her back to normal. She is about 25 pounds underweight now. I was over there Thursday sewing, and Lisa does want to be right on the spot, whether it's helping me sew or measuring curtains or anything else. Doran taught her to shake hands with her foot, which she thinks is great sport. Doran can't get to Lakeside until Saturday afternoon, but I may go Friday when Dick and Joan stop. We'll see how things work out this week. The Tracys were here this afternoon, and we looked at the trip slides. I'm planning to take a lot of breakfast rolls and some meat, and I think Joan is taking cake, jam, and jelly. Love, Mother. And another letter from Gertrude Zuck Ray. 1407 Marlborough Street, Sandusky, Ohio, October 1st, 1956. Dear folks, congratulations on being Cleveland's JC's representative to New Zealand. Quite an honor, and I know that you will fulfill it with distinguished service for your club. It surely promises to be a memorable experience, and we are so happy for all of you. If it works out that Ruth can go, we will do our best in keeping the youngsters. Let us know too, how you are arranging the Oberlin trip on the 27th. It will be nice if you could come here Saturday night, overnight, and stay Sunday. Mark and Pamela, your pretty red bird note came too, and I think you are a big boy to help Mommy wash the car. Grandpa's car gets so dirty these days, it's a mess. How did the chin come out? Nice and smooth, I hope, with hardly any scar. We are going to a book review tonight. Went to an Eddie Duchin movie the other night, which was beautiful and fine music, and went to an all-day church meeting in Bellevue last Thursday, and have a church meeting this coming Thursday. Went to Marion yesterday, painted the coal room and other parts of the basement last week, and so it goes. As for the Marion trip yesterday, it was most enjoyable. Mother's 86th birthday, as you know. She had many lovely cards, including yours, and pretty gifts. Helen, Fred, Ted, Tom, and Rachel called too, so the telephone added to her enjoyment of the day. Lenore and Dale came over for evening lunch before we came home. Dale had taken the wedding pictures of Bob Hope's niece's wedding over east of Marion. Perhaps you read about the wedding in the Plain Dealer. He and Lenore had a lot to tell about it. Dale had someone there take a picture of him and Bob Hope sitting together. I would like to see that one. Marge Freilich is teaching full-time in the home economics department in one of the schools in Marion. She has a retired teacher looking after her children. Helen Lacey was coming to Marion late last night with some friends who had been in Oberlin. She plans to be home today, has some business affairs to attend to, and Aunt Edith may drive her back to Oberlin tomorrow and perhaps go home by way of Sandusky, bringing Mother along for the drive. Lisa and Carol have both been ill, Lisa with cold and fever and Carol with a sore throat. The doctor told Carol that there had been a lot of it around. I want to do some more painting yet. The front porch rail and back porch floor. Oh, this property maintenance really piles up every once in a while. I laundered the lovely towel set and have it in the linen closet. I do like pink and rose, so it suited me just fine. Love to you all, Mother. P.S. I hope you see the president today. The next letter is from Doran Ray, my father's father. 1407 Marlborough Street, Sandusky, Ohio, February 16th, 1957. Dear John, Ruth, Mark, and Pamela, thanks for all of those fine valentines. We especially liked the ones you made, Mark and Pamela. Grandpa said the Valentine boy looked like you, Mark. Now what do you think of that? This is from Gertrude Ray. We had a Valentine party at the Rotary Inn dinner the other night. Corsages for the ladies, heart favors, and decorations. We did have a good time. We're going to Marion this afternoon, have dinner with Mary, and stay overnight at Mother and Dad's. Doran plans to drive home Sunday, but I'm staying on a few days and come home on the bus. Lenore and Dale are in Florida, so I thought this is a good time to spend a little time with the folks. They've been wanting us to do that for a long time. Tom and Marge have a new son, February 13th, almost 10 pounds, and all went well. Carol and Dave are over their colds. I cut out the clippings in the Plain Dealer about your program at Dunham Tavern Museum Thursday. Love, Mother. Now here's a letter from Doran Ray, my father's father. Dear Pamela, I liked the Valentine heart very much that you sent me. Looks like you might have had an accident when you made it, but I like it better that way. Love, Grandpa. And here's another letter from Gertrude Zuck Ray. 1407 Marlborough Street, Sandusky, Ohio, Thursday, April 15th, 1957. Dear folks, Ruth's letter came today, and we are glad Pamela recovered by Tuesday. We thought she was really coming down with something. Yes, we saw and read the article in the Plain Dealer. I have cut it out and put it in the big envelope with the other JC clippings. First page, first column is quite an honor. We are only sorry we didn't hear John on the Wayne Johnson program. I took the clipping over for Carol to read too. We really are all quite proud of you, John. I told Doran Sunday night that we have so very much to be thankful for. We are still enjoying the Easter lilies, and we did appreciate seeing the New Zealand trip slides. It probably didn't do the youngsters any good to stay up that late, though. Those careful, pretty Easter baskets and eggs were so nice, too, Mark and Pamela. We took Lisa's lamb over to her, and she loved it. Think Auntie Carol will put it up in her bedroom. It sounds like your junior women's club is really doing some worthwhile projects, Ruth. You must have some efficient, money-making members to bring in so much money. Takes creative ideas, that's for sure. I spent the day in Mansfield. Our Central North Fellowship meeting was over there. The speaker, a congregational minister's wife, who recently returned from a European trip where she lived part of the time in ministers' homes and got a pretty good idea of church work in England, Wales, Scotland, Holland, Germany, and France. We are just so fortunate to live here after hearing some of the hardships of those people. Evidently, war recovery is far from complete in many places. Doran is mowing the yard tonight. It's almost hay. We have had so much rain and hot sunshine this week. The magnolia is in full bloom and the narcissi coming out. Ohio is surely lovely now. We had a card from Mary today. Rachel and David are in Marion house hunting. Don't know just what the whole story is there. Oh yes, thanks for your note too, John. We will be looking for the youngsters on the 17th. Love to you all, Mother. And another letter from Gertrude Zuck Ray. 1407 Marlborough Street, Sandusky, Ohio, Thursday morning, May 2nd, 1957. Dear folks, John's letter came yesterday, and that is surely good news about the doctor's report. Doran looked in the projector and sure enough found the slide. Dave and Carol are putting up a fence in their backyard to keep Lisa and her dog in and the other dogs out. It's quite a project. Doran is on the way, so I'll have to stop. Glad the youngsters are okay and we'll be seeing them soon. Receive the $100 okay. Love, Mother. And a final letter from Gertrude Zuck Ray. 1407 Marlborough Street, Sandusky, Ohio, Sunday, June 2nd, 1957. Dear ones, we would like very much to be with you next Sunday. Carol said she had a note from you, so we will come together. We plan to get to your house around 1 o'clock p.m. your time. This is such a lovely time of year to make the drive too. Doran shot a 49 in golf today, his best of this season. He hopes to get it down around the low 40s soon. He is really enjoying these long weekends, and I am too. So many more maintenance jobs get turned over to him. We went over to Cedar Point this afternoon just to see how it's being kept up and what's going on. It's still fun to go over there once in a while. We will have to take Mark and Pamela over when they are here. Helen writes that she would like to get to Sandusky sometime before she starts her trip west, the 29th, I think it is. She's really busy right now, but as soon as school is over, we'll have about 2.5 weeks free unless she and Steve work in a trip to Glen Lake. Those red carnations you left stayed lovely several days, and we enjoyed them here in the dining room. I'm putting the brown handbag to good use too, so again thanks. We want to go down to Marion, Ohio, Sunday the 16th, a short visit, maybe in the afternoon. Dave and Rachel should be moved into their new home by that time. We'll see you Sunday. Love, Mother. Now here's a poem from Janet Henry from that era. Snowsuit serenade. Search for the mittens, struggle with the boots, button the sweaters, zip up the suits. Tie on the mufflers, bundle their heads, load them with Kleenex, drag out their sleds. See how they scamper off in the snow, now up for a peaceful hour or so. Minutes later, hollers begin, Mommy, hey Mommy, wanna come in? And here's a cover or an advertisement from the Saturday Evening Post, April 18th, 1964, featuring Harold Freilich, my father's cousin. And the caption says, F. Harold Freilich, CLU, is an outstanding person, not only at Massachusetts Mutual, but in the life insurance field at large. We are proud of his achievements. In case you missed this Massachusetts Mutual advertisement in the Saturday Evening Post, I'm bringing it to your attention. And that's from the President, Charles H. Schaff. And then there's one final item here, a letter from Joan Tracy Ray. Now that would be my father's brother's wife. And the title is Her Memories of the Marblehead Peninsula in Ohio, December 27th, 2001. Dear Peter, here's what I wrote you about a year ago, and it's probably lost somewhere in space. You had written that the Sandusky Bay Bridge, was opened in 1938. Which surprised me, as I thought it was older than that. My parents built their cottage on the Marblehead Peninsula on Bay Shore Road, directly across from Lakeside in 1939. We paid many a toll on that bridge. Initially it was 25 cents, then rose to 50 cents. I remember the ribbon-cutting ceremony with Governor Frank Lausche, with whom my dad played baseball when he was a kid, when the toll was removed. We were one of the first cars over, and felt we had earned our place in line. In the winter, cars used to drive marked paths on the ice to the Lake Erie Islands, Kelly's Island, and so forth. It was banned because drivers circumvented the paths, and several people were drowned when cars went through the thinner ice. The ban came after a doctor making a house call got off the designated path and went down. The story was that cars avoided the toll by driving around the bridge, but I don't think the channel that goes under the bridge ever freezes. It did make a good story, though. There was a lot of ice fishing in the area, and sometimes when we went up for a winter check, we would find a fishing shanty on our beach. It was always gone by spring, so either the owner was storing it on our property, or if it had blown there, he finally tracked it down and reclaimed it. I also remember ice boating. The surface of the bay was a bit rough for skating, although I did manage. One of my volunteers at the Women's Exchange, the consignment craft shop where I volunteer, is from Wadsworth. We were talking about Cedar Point on the peninsula one day, and she said she spent her summers on Johnson's Island. It seems that the island had been owned by her family. 3 cousins inherited it, and 2 of the sisters sold their shares to the 3rd one. Since the final owner had problems handling money, May imagines that the property has been sold and is no longer in the family. As they say, it's a small world. During World War II, German prisoners from Camp Perry worked on the farms on the Marblehead Peninsula. There was a group on a farm just a short way from the cottage. During the war, downtown Sandusky was filled with soldiers from the camp. We picked up many hitchhiking into Cleveland. In those days, one didn't give a second thought about picking up strangers. We also sometimes picked up peach pickers, once had a Harvard graduate. When the cottage was built in 1939, there wasn't much development on the Marblehead Peninsula. People thought my parents were crazy to have a weekend place that far from Cleveland. It was the isolation and distance that appealed to my folks. They didn't want a constant stream of visitors, when they were hoping for some rest and relaxation. As far back as I can remember, we used to go to Lakeside, to Abigail's, renamed by my father the Blabagale. A lot of teachers vacationed there, and the inn did become a bit noisy. That seems to be about all I can think of. One would think that after all these years spent there, I would have a little more to tell. I have many good years of the Marblehead Peninsula, the Sandusky Bay, and Lakeside, and wish I had appreciated the area more when I was a kid. Now we have one comment from John S. Ray, my father, on today's presentation. Okay, here we go. Dear editor, excuse me. The pictures on the first 2 pages of ZFMC 59 are just wonderful. Thank you for including them. My mother recommended 1 cup of bone meal around the base of the smallest evergreen in the fall. I recall that she was big on bone meal. I do not remember being on the Wayne Johnson radio program in 1957, nor do I remember Wayne Johnson. On long weekends, my mother would turn over some maintenance jobs to my father. Sounds fair. Very interesting to see Harold Freilich's picture in the Massachusetts Mutual ad in the Saturday Evening Post. He was certainly a fine fellow. My dad shot a 49 on the golf course. That was also my all-time low score. Grandma and Grandpa Ray certainly enjoyed their grandchildren. I enjoyed Joan's letter about her memories of their family cottage on the Marblehead Peninsula. Red and I visited Johnson's Island a couple times this past year. The Confederate Soldier Cemetery is still there. Thanks for your good work. Love, Dad. John S. Ray, Cleveland, Ohio. So that concludes today's presentation. Zuck family letters from 1955 to 1957, mostly my dad's mother's letters to my parents. Good luck to you with your own efforts in family history if this interests you, finding, preserving, and sharing old letters, diaries, and photographs, and interviewing elderly relatives while they're alive. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Take care, and I'll see you next time.